Hi friends, welcome to this episode of Yarny Heart Fiber Art. My name is Jess. You can find me on Instagram at Yarny Heart. This is usually the show where I talk about all the yarny things that I've been up to, but today I have a winter pattern roundup for you, and we are a little bit to the right so that I can show off my Christmas tree. So today we're going to be going over 15 winter patterns, and you'll notice that I called this a pattern roundup and not a knitting plans, because out of this entire list I think I really only have solid plans to knit one of these patterns, just because I do have a lot of carryover from fall, which is keeping me quite busy through the winter. So this is just me having fun browsing Ravelry and kind of window shopping for patterns that I wish I had the time to knit. But I will live vicariously through you all and share all of these beautiful patterns that are perfect for winter. By the time you're watching this, winter is going to be like we're solstice astronomical winter is going to be just starting, so we do still have time to knit a bunch of these pieces in time for the cold season, especially if you live somewhere not on the west coast like I do, where it actually like stays cold for a longer portion of the year. You've still got time to knit some of these, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I just said without further ado, but real quick, let me just talk about what I'm wearing. This is a sweater that has been introduced on the podcast but has not been shown finished yet. I have been doing quite a bit of knitting, but with the holidays I have not had time to sit down and film a knitting podcast update. I'll talk more about this in detail when I film my next knitting podcast episode, but this is the Foxberry sweater by Sari Nordland. I finished this right before Thanksgiving. So it has been a hot minute since it's been finished, which is probably not a surprise since it was almost done the last time I talked to you. But I've been wearing it a lot. It's super cozy, super warm, and I'm super in love with it, but I'll let you all hear more about that on the next episode of the podcast. So now, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. I will also note that all of the patterns that I mentioned today are going to be in a bundle on Ravelry that I will have linked in the description below if you want to check out any of these patterns for yourself. So the first pattern on this list is one that I just happened to stumble across today. I was just looking, honestly, because I have a huge queue of projects that I'm already going through. I've been kind of living under a rock in a sense when it comes to like new pattern releases. And so I did not know that this pattern existed, but it was really high in the hot right now, so you might have heard of it already. But this is called the Stars Hollow Pullover by Sari Nordland. This is also a pattern by Sari Nordland that I'm wearing right now. This is the first pattern that I've knitted of hers, but I really loved it. It was very well written, very clear, and it fits super well. There was a lot of thought into like the shaping and design of it, and so I'm totally down to knit another Sari Nordland pattern. And so I can recommend this pattern with full confidence, even though I literally only found it today. I've also been like in the middle of binging Gilmore Girls for the very first time. Yeah, I mean, I know, sue me, I have never seen Gilmore Girls all the way through, but I'm on like season 5 right now, and I've been like hardcore binging it ever since autumn this year. And so seeing that this sweater is called the Stars Hollow Pullover really called to me, particularly now. So this is a top-down all-over cable sweater. It has a boxy fit and drop shoulders. You start at the back neck and then you increase for kind of like the back yoke. You pick up the shoulders and work the front, and then you join in the round, and then you work until you're separate for sleeves, and then continue working down. So it's a pretty standard top-down sweater pattern. If you have been watching the podcast for a while, you might note that I have already knitted a few sweaters that are kind of similar to this, which is why I'm not sure if I am being blinded by like the cute cozy winterness of it all, or if I do actually want to make another like all over cable top-down sweater like this. But it is super cute. It's really cute. So it has this large complex central cable that has smaller cables like within it, which is very similar to the Minori pullover that I knitted last winter. But it also has these braided cables that kind of go down on either side of that large central cable, and then it also has a big braided cable down the center of each sleeve, which is very pretty. I don't know, I think it's super cute. I think the name, the Stars Hollow Pullover, is also very suiting. It is super like cozy, like winter feeling, and it is totally something that like Rory would wear on the show. So I think it's very fitting. So this is knit at an Aran weight gauge. And the pattern says that you could either knit it with an Aran weight yarn or with a DK weight held together with a strand of mohair to make an Aran weight. The suggested yarn for this pattern is Kelburn Woolen's Lucky Tweed. Like a typical Starry Northern pattern, this has a pretty wide size range. It's very size inclusive. It's intended for 8 inches of positive ease, and it will fit a 3.75 inch bust circumference all the way up to a 69 inch bust circumference. And like I said, that is with an intended positive ease of 8 inches. One thing that I have noticed about Starry Northern patterns, because even though this is the first sweater that I've knitted of hers, I have been window shopping for her patterns a lot, and I have noticed that overall the fit on her sleeves tends to be pretty tight compared to what I would prefer. Like even on this sweater that I'm wearing right now, like the sleeve, there's not like a whole lot of like room here. It's certainly not like, it's not form-fitting, it's not like sucking in my arm, like it's not too tight, but it's also like not very loose. It is very like fitted. So that is one thing to keep in mind. It looks like on this pattern, the sleeve, it looks to also be like quite fitted, and especially with the cables on the sleeve, I would just kind of be wary of the fit on that sleeve there. But it does seem like the underside of the sleeve is a very simple moss stitch. So if anything, it would be fairly easy, I would think, to add additional sleeve circumference kind of at the bottom where the moss stitch section is. So our next pattern that we're going to talk about is, I'm going to try very hard to pronounce this, but this sweater is called Jo by Sophie Ochera. And I stumbled upon this honestly, this is the pattern that made me want to sit down and make this pattern roundup video. It's so cute. I just happened to find it. I don't even remember what I was looking for. I was looking for something completely different, but then this pattern showed up in my search, and it was just so beautiful and so cute and fun, and I just had to save it. And like, I think this is, I certainly do not have immediate plans to knit this anytime soon, but this is going to be a bucket list pattern for me, I think. I see this being a very good scrap buster kind of pattern, just with all the small pockets of color that are in there. And if you look in the project pages, you'll see how other knitters have modified like the color breakdowns for the yarns that they're trying to use up, because they were also using it as a scrap buster project. And you can see that like, even if you are not knitting the exact like color scheme or color breakdown that is in the original pattern, it will still look really fun and still have the same intent and like look to it, which I think is fun. What is also fun is that this sweater is knitted pretty much entirely with mohair, like a lace weight mohair held double. And then of course, with that being color work, it does make it pretty nice and thick. And so you can see that that kind of makes all of the edges of the color work like slightly fuzzy, and like, it's just so cute. I'm so in love with this pattern. I'm really excited for it. And this, of course, you know, I'm starting to accumulate little scraps of mohair now that I'm starting to work with mohair more, or I should say like fuzzy yarn more, because this one is like a Surrey alpaca, but I'm starting to accumulate more like lace weight fuzzy scraps. And so this is certainly something on my radar to have as an ultimate goal when I have accumulated like enough scraps mistake. The main color, the white color in this sample photo, is actually a sport weight yarn that is 15% mohair, 15% alpaca, and 70% merino wool. So it suggests that you use that, which will have like a mohair halo fuzziness to it because of the mohair content, but it is a sport weight yarn to kind of counteract the rest of the sweater being a sport weight with 2 strands of mohair held together. That is what you would use for all the contrast colors. Yes, so this is a top down in the round circular yoke colorwork sweater, but it's all over colorwork. It just looks super fun. I will say that from the project page, Sophie does say this sweater is inspired by the geometric modernist style of 1920s textile designer Elise Jo Bourgeois. I'm so sorry. With its combination of circles, squares, and triangles in a mix of pastels and more contrasting colors on a base of white. I will say that I have like a general knowledge of many languages, but French is not one of them. And I understand that this is a blind spot for me. So this sample uses 8 contrast colors with different amounts of yarn for each contrast color. But you can certainly move that around like as needed. So this pattern fits a size extra small through a 4XL, which in terms of actual measurements, that is going to be a bust circumference of 36 inches for the extra small, and then up to a bust circumference of 57.5 inches for the 4XL. Yeah, it's super cute. If you scroll through the pattern photos, you see there is a picture of the back at some point. Trying to find it. Yeah, and there's like a tiny little notch in the back of the neck, which, I mean, it didn't have to be there. I'm sure you could certainly like make it without it, but I just think it's like a very fun and like unexpected touch to this pattern as well. I just really love like the silhouette of it also, like the balloon sleeves. Like it's just such a fun, it spoke to me so deeply. Just like the silhouette of it, just like the color scheme in the sample photo, like the color like motifs that are on there, the geometric patterns. It's just such an unexpected and like unique colorwork knit. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. Yeah. So this is the, it's not called the Joe sweater, it's just called Joe. But this is Joe by Sophie Ochera. And you will see going through here that colorwork is going to be a big theme for my winter knitting pattern roundup. But I do think that winter is just it's such a fun season for colorwork because it makes it warmer for one, and two, it's like there are so many motifs associated with winter that are just, I feel like, best expressed via colorwork. But this next pattern that I have to share with you is an exception to that rule. It does evoke some of those motifs of winter, but it does so with texture and baubles as opposed to with colorwork, which I think is also very fun and unique and innovative. I came across this pattern last year actually when it was released, and that was kind of before I started doing these pattern roundup videos, so I didn't really have an avenue to share it on. But now that I am doing a winter pattern roundup, I am excited to share this pattern with you because I think it's very cute. This is called the Snow Globe Sweater by Una Kim. Yes, like I said, this was released last year, December 2023. Let's see what it says here about it. The Snow Globe sweater contains my memory of a snowy day last year. It is a top-down raglan sweater, and you work the snows and trees by working cable knitting. The folded neckband cables and long ribbing make a cozy and warm mood, and I hope your winter to be full of beautiful memories with the Snow Globe sweater. So this pattern is available. Oh, I didn't realize it was only in English. I thought it was also in Korean. Oh. Okay, so on Ravelry it's only available in English, but you can get it in Korean through her personal website, which is also linked on there. So this is an Aran weight sweater. And like she mentioned, it's a top-down raglan sweater, but then it has like this snow bauble motif at the top, and then you use texture and cables to make these little Christmas, or like not Christmas trees necessarily, but like pine trees at the bottom of the sweater, right before the hem, which is a very long rib section. It is just so cute, and like I love that it's in an Aran weight gauge. It's just nice and chunky and it looks so cozy and fun. I've actually been wanting to knit this one for a while. Unfortunately, it is not super size inclusive. It does have 7 sizes, but the first 4 are child sizes, which leaves only 3 adult sizes. It is meant to be fairly pretty oversized, with 20 to 25 centimeters of intended positive ease. And the bust circumference for the adult sizes at least goes from 101 centimeters to 116 centimeters. However, because this is like such a simple pattern, particularly like with the raglan increasing style, I get the sense that you could easily modify this pattern to be knit at a larger size. Like pretty much all you would have to do is like continue knitting the raglan increases. And you could also do that pretty easily by looking at another raglan pattern that has a larger size range or fits you well, that you know fits you well, and you can follow the raglan increases for that pattern and then just continue the motif as written on the sweater, because it has 1 tree down like the center and then 2 trees on the side. So you could pretty much just like knit that as written, I think. And then just have the raglan section, or like have the stockinette section be larger. So I think you could modify it for larger sizes pretty easily. It's so cute. And the suggested yarn for this is Durum Natura Gilead. Yeah, I've been like looking at this sweater for a long time because, like I said, I think it's just such a unique concept of like having a very winter Christmas themed motif. Like this would be a really good Christmas sweater that doesn't look so much like a Christmas sweater that you could only wear it on Christmas, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I think it's super cute. Of course, by the time you're watching this, it's too late to knit a Christmas sweater anyway, but it's never too late to plan next year's Christmas sweater, because I did not plan a Christmas sweater for this year, and therefore I am not able to knit a Christmas sweater this year. But next year, I really want to knit a Christmas sweater, so I'm going to get on planning that now. It's totally cold, but you know, it's fine. So this next pattern is another colorwork pattern. I warned you all in advance that this was going to be a theme, a running theme here. This pattern is called Red Viburnum by Tatiana Kistiakova. And it is a top-down circular yoke, colorwork yoke sweater, but it is stunning. And I think especially in the red color that is in the first sample photo here, it's just so stunning. It is wintry, it is Christmassy looking if you're into that. But it has these like berry branches that kind of like go down here and increase as you're increasing for the raglan. And in between there's a little like heart motif in there. I just think it's so pretty. The sample that's shown here is pretty high contrast, but I do also feel like this would be beautiful in a lower contrast. Yes, the red is gorgeous, but I do feel like it would still be pretty, even with, like a not so dare I say, bold color choice. If you look through the sample photos, there are also some pictures where they have reversed the color contrast motif. So in this first sample, you see that there is a white background for the colorwork yoke, and then the colorwork is knit in what is actually the main color, and then the background for just the yoke is knitted in the contrast color. But there are some photos later on in the reel of some people who have knitted it more like a traditional colorwork yoke, where the colorwork part, like the berry branches, are in a contrast color to the main color. Yes, all that. So it is a fingering weight pattern. So it's a pretty typical fingering weight colorwork sweater, which is a daunting task. If you've never done one before, I'm on my second one now, and it is daunting, but I think the finished object is so beautiful that it makes all of that effort worth it. So highly recommend trying one if you have not. Like, if you have not crossed that off your knitting bucket list, like, it's rewarding. Yes, it is a lot of work, but it's rewarding work. So this comes in a size small through a size 3XL. Do not give me measurements on here, but I assume that measurements are going to be on the pattern itself. Follow up that colorwork sweater is a different colorwork sweater. This is the Ablene Pullover by Brianna Mason. This, I feel like, has a very different vibe to the previous one. The red Viburnum sweater is very like elegant, and it has a lot of elegant finishing details. Like, it does not have like ribbing. Instead it has like these I-cord edge finishings, which kind of give it like this very, I don't want to say polished, but like just like very elegant and like feminine look to it. As opposed to this Abilene pullover, it is kind of more rustic looking, both with the motif itself, but then also just the fact that it does have kind of like this rib like funnel neck. It has a lot of like longer rib details. And I think that the sample color in this beautiful forest green certainly contributes to that as well. But I do think that this certainly feels more like what's the word I'm looking for? Not unisex, but like, what's the word I'm looking for? Androgynous. It kind of has more of an androgynous look to it. It's kind of more rustic. I said rustic already, but I do think that the pattern is really pretty. It's very reminiscent to me of like pine trees or like pine needles or branches. Yes, and it's really pretty. Oh yeah, okay, so Brianna in the description says specifically that they are supposed to be pine trees. So the motif itself is meant to be a star-flecked sky, pine trees, and a field of flowers, which will transport your mind to a walk outside with your favorite hot drink in hand. I'm not much of an outdoorsy person, but this calls to the hidden nature lover somewhere deep inside me, I'm sure. Yeah, so this is a stranded colorwork, top down in the round circular yoke sweater. Once again, a very typical colorwork sweater construction, but this is worked up at a DK weight, so it is going to be faster than the red Viburnum pattern, and it is also going to be a little thicker and warmer than the red Viburnum pattern. So this one is certainly less daunting than that one. But I do think that they're both gorgeous. I feel like this one is kind of speaking to winter itch in me of like, if I were to knit like a wintry colorwork sweater for myself, I think I personally am drawn more to this one, but that might also just be like I feel like that's just my personal, like, you can see the sweater that I'm wearing right now, like the vibes are resonating with me. So this sweater comes in 9 sizes from 34.75 inches bust circumference up to 68 inches of bust circumference. And it is designed to fit with about 4 to 7 inches of positive ease. So it is slightly oversized. So I feel like we have like been slowly like building you up to this point here that we're getting to, because this next colorwork sweater that I'm sharing with you, this is the Narnia jumper by the Petite Knitter. If you don't know already, I have lately been obsessed with her patterns. I am currently working on the Saskia pullover. I've just completed the Seek jumper not that long ago, or Seek pullover not that long ago. But this one is called the Narnia jumper. It is as typical for her. It is a top down in the round colorwork sweater. This one has these adorable bears on it. And the bears have like this little like pine motif in the middle of them. Oh, they're so cute. In case you haven't noticed, I'm obsessed with her animal-based, like her animal-inspired patterns. I just think they're so freaking cute. But the bears are like a whole another level of cute. And I mean, like, they're bears, so like they're, you know, they're very wintry. It's a very wintry kind of motif. Yeah, so if you are new to colorwork knitting, this one should be a walk in the park because it is knit up at an Aran weight. The suggested yarn used here is Eastex Let Lopi, which is a like very thick and like honestly like kind of itchy if you're not used to it, unspun wool. I have not worked with it before. I would really like to work with it or try working with Newtogen, which is very similar. But I have felt Let Lopi specifically like at the store, and I didn't really vibe with the way it felt, if I'm going to be completely honest. Like, I didn't really enjoy the way it felt. But this can certainly be knitted with like any other Aran weight yarn of like a similar gauge, and it will work up pretty quickly. This comes in 10 sizes from 36.5 inches of bust circumference up to 80 inches of bust circumference. This is meant also to be a unisex pattern, as is the case with many of the Petite Knitters patterns. It also has a matching hat that you can purchase and knit. If you buy the hat and the sweater pattern together, you get like a 10% discount with a code. That is on the project page. So if you are interested in having a matching sweater and hat, that is certainly something that you can accomplish with this pattern, which I think is very fun. Yes, and I do believe the Petite Knitter also sells a kit to knit this pattern with, like both the hat and the sweater. I think she has like a yarn kit for it. So if you're interested in that, that is also something that you can do and just not have to worry about like yarn chicken or anything like that at all. I believe this is the last sweater on my list. And this one has been around for a while. I feel like it does come around like every Christmas time. So this might not be a new one to you, but I still think it's really cute. And this is definitely one that I want to make for myself at some point. Maybe I'll get around to it next year. Not sure. But this is called the Festive Yol Pullover by Skein-Deer Knits. Like I said, I feel like this one has become kind of a holiday classic. It's a really beautiful pattern. And you can choose how, I think one of the fun parts of this pattern is you can choose how much color work you do. Like, you can do color work for only the yoke if you so desire, or you can do longer or just like one line of color work, or you can, you know, make it literally all over color work, and have it be just an absolute kind of showstopper of a pattern here. So this is knit up at a sport weight, and is worked top down in the rounds color work sweater, as is I think pretty much all of the sweater patterns that I've shared today. There are two, they've all been top down. There are two that were not circular yoke, so take that as you will. But this one is so fun, and it's super customizable because, like I said, you can choose how much color work you do. You also get to choose the motifs that you put on here. So the Festive Yol Pullover comes with 20 different color work charts. I don't know if this is a complete list, but she lists on here deer, hearts, trees, snowmen, presents, and bells. But yeah, so she gives you 20 different charts that you can choose from to create your own selection of motifs for your sweater. It says the suggested yarn is La Bien Amie Helix held double to make a sport weight. I'm not sure what Helix is. I'm not sure if that's a fingering weight or what it is, but it says on the pattern here that the suggested yarn is sport weight, or you can do like a heavy fingering weight, and that would probably give about like the same gauge. So this is intended to be worn with 0 to 3 inches of positive ease, so it's a pretty close fit. I do remember when I was looking at this pattern originally, that was one of the things that made me like a little bit wary, just because I prefer to have more positive ease in my garments. And so for me personally, that just might mean that I knit this in a bigger size than I need, knowing that it will give me more positive ease. But it is written to fit a bust circumference of 33 inches up to 62 inches. And that is with that 0 to 3 inches of positive ease. But with that range, I do think that it will, even if you choose to knit it bigger, you'll still be, that's still pretty good range of sizes offered. Okay, so that was my last sweater to share. So now we're getting into accessories. I have 5 accessories and then 3 socks. So, and I kind of have like subcategories a little bit in the categories. If you know me, I'm not much of an accessories knitter, but these are some that have definitely captured my attention and made me really want to knit them. First up is the Param shawl by Sedna Young. This has been another one of those bucket list patterns. This shawl is so beautiful, but I'm not really a shawls person. I probably honestly would never wear it. But I feel like a dream of mine is to knit this shawl and then hang it up as a tapestry somewhere, like in my house eventually when I move out of this tiny studio apartment and get a house. But for me, like, this is a piece of art that is so beautiful that it could be a wall tapestry, and when I knit it, it probably will become a wall tapestry and live there, and that will be its life. But if you are a shawl person, this will be like ridiculously warm and cozy. So this is a colorwork shawl that is worked up at a worsted weight gauge. And the suggested yarn here is Yak Baby Yak medium. So yeah, I mean, what else? I feel like there's not much else to say at that point. Like, colorwork shawl, worsted weight, yak. It's just going to be super warm. So with many things that are flat colorwork, this is worked in the round and then steeked. I know the word steek is very scary. If you don't know what steeking is, it's essentially where you work colorwork in the round with, and it will eventually be flat, but you work it in the round, and then when you are done knitting the colorwork, you reinforce the edges of like a line that you were intending to cut. You reinforce it first so that it doesn't unravel, obviously, and then, very scary, but you cut your knitting to make it flat. But because it's reinforced in theory, it will not unravel, but it's just still very scary. But I feel like for me personally, this is also one that speaks to me. So this is Sedna Young is a Korean designer, and a lot of her designs are like inspired by traditional Korean fashion or motifs. So this one, the Param shawl, Param means wind, but it also means wish. The pattern that is on here is full of traditional patterns and motifs that you see in like lots of things in Korea. Like I was about to say historical things, but you know, like modern things also. They're just very like culturally significant, like Korean motifs that are on this shawl, and I just think it's so beautiful. Oh, did she make mitten patterns too of it? She did. So it looks like now, yeah, so last month, it looks like she released a mitts pattern that uses the same motifs, and these are called the Param knits, and she is doing a special where you can buy the mitts pattern and the shawl pattern together, and it's buy one get one free. That's really nice. Maybe I'll make the mitts for myself and wear the mitts, because, you know, like, I would get use out of mitts, but I would not get use out of the shawl. But it's so beautiful. So the next pattern I have is also a shawl pattern, and I know I just said that I don't really wear shawls, but this one does look really cozy, so I don't know, like maybe I would just make it anyway and just like wear it around the house or something. But this one is called Minion. I think that's how you're supposed to pronounce it, but it's by Soohyun Nam. So this is another Korean designer. Yeah, so this is knitted up at a DK weight, but this is just a really beautiful, like it's just a really pretty shawl. Like it has this ruffle detail at the edge, but then also at the edge it has like this almost like piped line kind of design there. And there's a little bit of color work just at the edge, and it's just, I don't know, it's just like really cute and like cozy looking. Yeah, I don't know, it's cute. It reminds me of like pastries. I don't know if that even makes any sense, but like it kind of reminds me of like pastries or like a bakery or something like that. I don't know what I'm talking about. But this, yeah, so like I said, this is knitted up at a DK weight, and I believe it is meant to be a fingering with a fuzzy lace, I think. Yes. So the suggested yarn is Biche Bouche lamb's wool, Le Petit lamb's wool, held with Biche Bouche Le Petit silk mohair. So I was correct on that front. Oh, so it comes in two sizes. There's a shawl size that you can knit, and there's also a scarf size that will be like smaller. So that is nice. You've got options. So this is worked from the top down, using a garter tab cast on, which is just when you, so like if you've never made a shawl before, you start with this little like nubbin of like garter stitch, and then you start, like that's literally like how you start. There's like this little triangle, and then you pick up stitches on either side, and then you just kind of like grow the shawl as it grows. I'm really trying not to lose steam here. This is a really long one. But my next pattern to share with you is Through the Forest by Isabella Clarke, otherwise known as 100 Acre Wool on YouTube, Instagram, Ravelry, etc. I have most certainly mentioned this pattern before on my podcast, although it was most likely this exact time last year. But no, I still have not knitted it because I don't really wear hats. Because in California, unless you were going to Tahoe or something, you don't really have a need for like a winter hat. It does not get that cold out here. But this hat has been in my to knit list for like ages. It is so cute. So this is a colorwork hat that has these pine trees on it, and I think I'm so enchanted by the pine trees because they look so like full and fluffy, and I feel like a lot of the times when you have a knitting pine tree motif, it looks kind of like sad and skinny. Like it looks kind of like my Christmas tree here from Amazon. But these look like, they look like real pine trees because they're just like very full. And like there's two different pine trees on here. There's one that's kind of like a triangle that is kind of more like a typical Christmas tree shape, but then there's one that's kind of more of like a bushy pine tree. I just think they're really cute, and there's a little pom-pom on the top. You can't ever go wrong with a little pom-pom on the top. And I think also it's partially because I have the exact perfect amount of scrap yarn to knit with this, or to knit this with, I should say. And so it's been forever in my I'll knit it someday pile, because I have the yarn. It won't honestly take that long. It's a hat. And just never got around to it, which I feel like is a running theme here on Yarny Heart Fiber Art. But it's a really cute hat. I've got to make it at some point. So she released this last December, and I think it was literally like only a week before Christmas, because I was at a holiday party and I was bored and on my phone because I'm a total introvert, and I saw on Instagram that she released this pattern just kind of out of the blue, and I remember being so excited. I remember specifically where I was because I was being shy at a holiday party. I'm actually going to the next instance of that same holiday party on Saturday, so maybe Isabella Clarke will release a new cute hat pattern and surprise me. So this is knitted up at a DK weight and doesn't use a whole lot of yarn, I don't think, because it's just a hat. So this is perfect for, I mean, I was going to use it for scrap busting because I had leftovers from my Between Petals pullover of the purple and the green in a DK weight. So I was just planning on using that for this hat, and it would be like the perfect amount of yarn. So this is great for busting through if you have leftovers from knitting a different DK weight colorwork sweater. And I'm sure even if it wasn't at a DK weight, you could probably just like measure your gauge, and I'm sure you can make it work with a different weight of yarn as well, just taking note of your gauge. So this pattern is also by Skein Knits, who was the designer of the Festive Yol Pullover. I believe, so this is spelled jewel knot, but I believe it's supposed to be Yule knot because that would make sense. But this is a mittens pattern. I have not knitted mittens since college because I haven't needed mittens since college, but they're so fun to knit and I really love them. Skein Knits does have an entire book of mittens, and she has a lot of mittens patterns, and a lot of them are also very like seasonally appropriate. So if you are interested in different mittens, I do recommend that you check out the rest of her page and see what mitten patterns she has because they're so cute. But I really liked this one because it's so like scenic. There's so much going on here. Got the little moon and the stars and the tree and the reindeer and the house and the hills and the other trees. There's a lot going on here, and I think it's really cute. So this is knitted up at a fingering weight. And then she just recommends that you check your gauge in order to change sizes of mittens, which is not really an exact science, unfortunately. But I think that the standard pattern for this is meant to fit like an adult woman's hand size in general. And then a lot of her other mittens have like a Latvian braid at the bottom, which actually my first pair of mittens was how I learned how to do a Latvian braid, and it's a very pretty finishing thing, but it appears that this mitten pattern does not have that detail on it. It just kind of has like a little purl row, if I'm looking at this correctly, and then a short 1x1 ribbing. But if you wanted to put one on there, I'm sure you could do it pretty easily. But they're just super cute. And then the bottom side of the mitt also has a motif that just has these like little like Scandinavian looking crosses. So cute. Oh, she even says on here, Yule is the Scandinavian Christmas time and not translates to night. These mittens are my take on the dark, snowy Scandinavian winter nights. There is no Christmas symbolism on these mittens, so you can safely wear them all winter, which is also partially why I chose this one. I'm like, yeah, they're winter mitts. They're not necessarily Christmas mitts. So it's like, yes, I do personally celebrate Christmas. You can see my tree. But I do understand that you do not want to be necessarily wearing like something that is like super in your face Christmas for like the entire season. So I think that this is a very good like evergreen pattern that is not necessarily a Christmas mitten, but it will keep you nice and warm. My next pattern is another mitten pattern, but this one is a dual pattern for either mittens or kind of, they call it a muffety, but like a fingerless mitt kind of situation there. And this is by Bunny Muff. So their name on here is Bunny Muff, but I think their real name is Monazilla. Part of the reason why this is on my list, and I had mentioned at the start of this video that there was only one pattern on here that I actually had concrete plans to make, and it was this one, because I find myself like, yes, I do have my hand knitted mittens, but mittens are kind of cumbersome, and especially if it's not really cold enough to like warrant an entire mitten. I feel like there is a void in my cold accessories collection where I just really need some good like fingerless mitts, like for going out at night or like driving in the morning. I just need myself some mitts. Since I'm also working on my Sasky pullover, I think it'd be cute to do a bunny mitt. Like, even if I'm not necessarily wearing them at the same time all the time, like I can still have a matching set so that when I do match them, then it's cute. Anyway, so there are charts for the left and right mitten, and there are also 2 different rabbits that you can choose from. So you can either have like both mittens match and be the same rabbit, or you can do one rabbit on one hand and one rabbit on the other hand. And then, like I said, this comes as a dual mitten and fingerless mitt pattern. They do recommend using the ladder back technique for the rabbit section, just because there are long floats on the rabbit. But I mean, I've done long floats on other stuff before, and it's like it's really not that big of a deal in my opinion. So, yep. But these are worked up at a fingering weight, just like most, I feel like most color work mittens or socks are going to be at a fingering weight. So this is pretty standard. We're in the home stretch. We're in the socks section. So all the socks that I have here are Christmas themed. So if you're not really into a Christmas themed sock, thank you for watching this video. But if you are, stick around because these are really cute and some of them are free. So the first one that I have for you is called the Christmas Chaos Socks. This was my random Ravelry pattern of the day, like in the middle of summer, like a year and a half ago. And I was like, wait, those are so cute though. So I saved them for Christmas, and I've never gotten around to actually knitting them for Christmas, but these are the Christmas Chaos Socks. This is a free pattern by Barbara Segledi. This could not have been a year and a half ago. What am I talking about? But this, I remember it was off season. So this was my Ravelry pattern of the day, like random pattern of the day. Like, I'm pretty sure it was during summer. It was definitely off season that I got this, and they're just so cute though. So this is a all over colorwork sock. Yeah, like I said, it's a free pattern. So this is, I didn't even realize they're toe up. So these are toe up colorwork socks, and they have different motifs. Similar to the Festive Yol Pullover, there are different motifs that you can kind of like choose from. And there's like gingerbread cookies, there's little houses, and like, I think that's a pie maybe or something like that, and hearts and Christmas trees and stuff, and you can just kind of like mix and match and make your own sock. There is a solid colored stripe in between each section, or like, yeah, like each section of these like colorwork motifs. And so you have one contrast color that is all of like the actual color, like stranded colorwork parts, but then you can use different kind of like pops of contrast color to do the stripes in between. Or I suppose if you wanted kind of a more like minimalist looking sock, you could just use the same contrast color for all of it and have it look very uniformed. But they're so cute. This is definitely one that I want to make. It's so fun and whimsical, and it's been on my mind for a while, so I want to make it at some point, even if I'm late for Christmas. I think it'd still be cute. The next one that I have to share with you are the Holly Christmas Socks by Knit and Wave. This is also a free pattern, and these are very minimalist socks, and it doesn't seem like the pattern is too intense, and it doesn't really tell. That is one thing. I don't believe this one will really tell you how to like knit a sock. So if you have never knitted socks before, I don't recommend that you start with this pattern. But this is kind of more so a recipe of how to add these holly berries to a sock that you are knitting. So it's pretty much meant to be like a vanilla sock for the most part, but then at the cuff there is this holly berry motif that has like these red baubles and then like the green holly leaves right at the top of the cuff. So I have always been enchanted with like that knitting for olive holly berry sweater, but I have heard from people that like the row where you're doing the actual holly berries is like kind of super intense, and so I feel like these socks will be like the perfect way for me to like get the same effect of like, yay, I knitted something cute in Christmas and Hollyberry, but not have to like do the commitment of an entire sweater. So I think these are super cute. And if I do ever decide to knit the entire sweater, they will match the sweater. So, you know, it's a win-win-win all around. In fact, I do think that Knit and Wave, I do think that they originally wrote this pattern to match that sweater by Knitting for Olive, because in the description it's mentioned that the socks were meant to match a sweater that they were knitting. So I'm like 99% sure that it was that sweater pattern. This is the last pattern on the list. If you have stuck around this far, thank you so much. But this is called a Whimsical Christmas sock set by Stone Knits. This one's also pretty hot right now, and it was just released last month. But it's so cute. I love looking at Stone Knits patterns. I've yet to knit any myself personally, but I really want to give it a try. I think an all over colorwork sock kind of intimidates me, but I really want to take that challenge, and so I do want to knit some of Stone Knits patterns, but until then I'm going to window shop and ooh and ah. But these are so cute. So this sock set contains 2 different sock patterns. One of them is for a gingerbread man motif, and one of them is for these adorable little Christmas robins. So the robins I feel like are definitely like less Christmassy, and you could certainly wear them at other times of the year, but the gingerbread men are they're pretty Christmas. So they're so cute. And so I believe both of these are top down. That is usually how it goes. Yes. So the gingerbread man is certainly top down. Yes, so these are both knitted top down fingering weight socks, and just like very adorable little color motifs. Like I love the little smiles and the little details on the gingerbread men, and of course those robins are like so cute. I think what gets me is like the intricacy of the Stone Knits patterns. There's so much detail in them always, and I just think they're so adorable. And there you have it, folks. That was my 15 knitting patterns for winter. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please let me know in the comments if you have heard of any of these patterns, if you've personally knitted any of these patterns, or if you're planning on knitting any of these patterns this upcoming winter. And I'm always interested to hear what you are working on, even if you're not working on any of the patterns that I mentioned in this video today. If you liked this video, please don't forget to leave a like and consider subscribing to my channel. It helps me out so much more than you know. Until next time, take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye!